Hello everybody. In this video we'll discuss subject-verb agreement. This is our third lesson on this course, and here we're talking about there is, there are, with a lot of practical examples. So stay tuned because you're about to learn really important concepts in the English language. Let's look at the first example, and this is where we talk about a singular subject with a singular verb. Here we have the word problem. Okay, that's your subject. So we're saying there is a problem here. Is. What is the verb, guys? Is the verb. Now, problem is one. That's why we're using is. There is a problem here. Or if it's negative, the opposite will be there isn't a problem here. Isn't will be the opposite. Now, coffee also, although it's liquid, it's considered one thing. So there is some coffee, or you could also ask the question, is there some coffee left? So we can see when there is singular verb, we have singular subjects. All right, that's clear? Good. Let's look at examples with plural subject and plural verb. For example, there are 2 cats in the garden. What's your subject here? It is 2 cats, plural. So we're saying are instead of is. Similarly, there aren't any apples left to eat. So that is the negative sentence. Instead of isn't, we're saying aren't because the subject apples is plural. Now, there are many flowers to be picked tonight. So there are. The are is the plural and flowers is also plural, so we're matching them. And my apologies, this should be connected to this sentence. So actually this sentence was there are many flowers to be picked, and when you want to ask that question, it becomes are there any flights leaving tonight? A different situation. Flights is plural, and because the subject here is plural, your verb is going to be plural as well. We're saying are instead of is. Okay, so remember that key rule. It's simple. Plural subject goes with plural verb, and singular subject goes with singular verb. All right, with that understood, let's look at some more examples. When we look at there is and there are, understand that those are present tense usages. We use them in present tense. But what if we're talking in the past? Then the is becomes was. There was a banana in the fridge. That is for singular, right? Because we are talking about one banana. What about multiple people? For example, people is plural. So there are should be used in the present tense, but here, since we're going in the past, we're saying there were lots of people. Make sense? Good. Now, try some examples yourself in the past tense. Can you make some sentences with was or were? Try those out, type them down in the comments. I'll personally give you feedback if you got it right or wrong. Now, you have some more examples about have been, but guys, that's a little complicated, so we'll talk about that later. Don't worry about that now, and stick till the end of this video. We're almost wrapped up. There's an important concept coming up. Before we get into that, let's look at what we mean by singular subject series. So guys, for example, if I'm talking about salad, soup, and homemade bread, this is my subject. These are multiple things. So why am I saying is? You can see I'm doing the same thing here. Pink pair of pants, a blue one, and a green one. It's multiple things, but I'm saying there is or there's. Why am I not saying are? Any guesses? Well, the reason is here we have a series of singular things in a sentence. When you have singular, 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 one thing, and you have many of those one things, those are singular series. And when you put them in a sentence, your verb becomes singular as well, even though you're talking about too many things. Isn't that weird? It is, but it is a concept of English. So we'll have to accept it and learn it. All right, there's some more examples on your screen that you can check out. Now I'm going to move on to the next slide, and here we're going to talk about subject-verb agreement with there is and there are. When we use quantifiers, and quantifiers mean things like lots, lots of, a lot of. Things become complicated here, guys. And this is what I mean. If it is singular, use there is. If it is plural, use there are. Obviously, right? But let me show you some examples. There are lots of dogs. So there are lots of dogs. Lots of dogs is plural. I think this is something you would write. This is easy to understand, I hope. But what about this one? There's a lot of money in my wallet right now. Why am I saying there is? Like, money is plural, right? You can have lots of money. Why not there are lots of money? The reason is the key is the noun here, depending on the noun. And we have done a lesson on nouns. We know that money is a noun. So if your noun is money, we say there is a lot of money. Similarly, there is a lot of love. There is a lot of hate. We're not going to say there are loves. We can't use that. So it depends on the noun. And unfortunately, there are very specific and particular scenarios in the English language that you just have to learn. You have to memorize. Like with money, you cannot say there are money. With snow, you cannot say there are snow. And that's where you have to understand that is sometimes used with plural, even though the noun does not look like plural. It's a difficult concept, but don't worry, we'll talk about that more in future lessons. For now, understand the example of money that I mentioned earlier. And I also want to cover something very important, because you might start thinking that family, or let's say a pack would be a group of dog or wolves, or a bunch of grapes or other things. You would think that these things are plural, right? And you would say the family are, but it's not correct. You want to say the family is. So here as well, this is a confusion, but again, when we're talking about groups, family, pack, bunch, when you give that group a name, like the government, you say is instead of are, okay? Groups are to be considered singular nouns, and that's confusing. But again, this kind of balances when we put those groups in plural. For example, if you used the word families instead of family, now you're saying families. Now you can say families are. Okay? That's okay. But family, if you just say family, that's one. So you would say family is. I hope that makes sense. Now here we have families enjoy this hike. You can see enjoy is a verb that is singular, and it's being used with plural verb. Or sorry, plural noun here. And that's again because we're considering families to be plural. Families enjoy. But if I were to say family, then I would say enjoys. Okay? Because that family would be considered singular. Now, if, again, it differentiates, if there are specific situations when all the members of a collective noun are performing an action as a unit, you want to use a singular verb. For example, my orchestra. Orchestra is a group of people, but it's one, like a unit. So you're going to say always. The verb has S with it because we're considering this noun singular. Dog pack, singular, so hunts. The fleet would have multiple people, but the fleet is. But now if you said the orchestras, the dog packs, the fleets, then this performs will become perform, hunts will become hunt, and is will become what? Answer that, guys. Is will become are. So it's really confusing. This is the English language. It always tricks you, but by learning these things and practicing, by making multiple sentences, you can definitely improve on these. If you guys have any questions, feel free to comment. We'll answer any questions. And if you want to make sentences, feel free to do so. I'll personally go in the comment sections and correct you. Guys, please like, share, subscribe. Helps a lot. And take care.